This was the physique that I wanted to achieve when I first started getting into health and fitness. I'd lost a lot of weight, but had ended up skinny, weighing around 150 pounds, and although I wasn't carrying fat anymore, I did not have the look that I wanted. I tried loads of different plans, spent a lot of money on supplements and hours on end in the gym to try and see results, and made one hell of a lot of mistakes along the way. But after years of doing things the wrong way, working with some of the best coaches in the industry, doing hours of research and a lot of hard work, I figured out what actually worked and went from this to this. I know how frustrating it is looking in the mirror and not being proud of what you see. Wanting bigger arms or a bigger chest and feeling like no matter what you do, you stay the same and you're just not sure that you're on the right path. In this video, I'm going to share with you all of my secrets so that you can apply all of these tips and finally start seeing actual results. First things first, let's talk about nutrition. When our goal is to build muscle from a lean starting point, there are various different pillars that we need to have in check if we want to increase our muscle mass. The first thing is ensuring that we're consuming an adequate amount of protein and from the right sources as well. When it comes to how we get our protein, not all different types of foods or supplements are equal in terms of protein quality. Protein is made up to a total of 20 different amino acids, all of which the body uses towards processes such as building new muscle. Every protein source that we consume has a different profile with varying amounts of each amino acid, and it's therefore important that we don't over-rely on one particular source of protein. This is especially important if you follow a vegetarian diet, as a lot of the plant-based sources of protein do not have the same bioavailability as meat. Take this example of chickpeas versus chicken, where we can see in the graph on the screen now the availability of the 9 essential amino acids that the body can't produce and must be consumed from food. As we can see in this example, the meat source has a far greater percentage of amino acids per 100 grams than the plant-based source. To be clear, that doesn't mean, as a vegetarian, like I actually am myself, that you can't build muscle, but you definitely need to be more switched on to consuming a variety of protein sources and will likely need to supplement with whey protein, which is a complete protein containing all 20 amino acids. On top of this, we need to then ensure we're consuming an adequate amount of protein to satisfy our body's requirements to build new muscle. Studies have shown that the optimal range is somewhere between 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. My personal preference is to go towards the top end of this, even as high as 2.5 grams per kilogram, to really make sure we have all we need to support recovery and growth. Once we're confident that our protein needs are being met, we then need to look at our calorie consumption. To be able to consistently build new muscle tissue, we must be in a calorie surplus. Muscle protein synthesis, where our body rebuilds damaged muscle fibers and synthesizes new proteins, is an energy demanding process. And if your calorie intake isn't high enough, even with enough protein, your body might not have what it needs to efficiently complete this process. To put it plainly, our bodies are survival machines, and if your calorie intake is limited, wasting precious resources on building new muscle is absolutely not going to be something that's a priority. With that, we have to ensure that we are consistently providing our body with enough resources to complete this process if we want to add more muscle to our physique. But this is where it gets complicated. A mistake I've commonly seen over the years is people consuming way too many calories and simply ending up piling on a ton of body fat. When we are in a calorie surplus, it is inevitable that in this situation, there will be an increase in fat. And that's not something we can avoid altogether, but certainly we want to minimize the percentage of fat we put on and maximize the amount of muscle. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually pretty simple. What you want to do is aim to figure out your calorie maintenance level, which is where your body weight is neither increasing or decreasing. Whilst there are websites you can use online to calculate this number, which can be helpful, the easiest way to do this accurately is to track both your calorie consumption and your body weight on the scales over the course of a couple of weeks. If things are holding pretty steady, you'll know that you're at maintenance. From here, we then want to look to create a small calorie surplus, somewhere in the region of 5 to 10% above maintenance. A study by Garth and others in 2013 tested 2 groups of athletes over a period of 8 to 12 weeks. Group A had a 600 calorie surplus and Group B had a 2000 calorie surplus. And here's the interesting part. Despite the significantly higher surplus in Group B, both groups gained a similar amount of lean muscle mass, but Group B gained a significantly higher portion of body fat. What these studies show is that once muscle protein synthesis is stimulated to its max, simply increasing your calorie consumption further doesn't serve to further advance this process and simply leads to the additional calories being stored as fat. By aiming for an increase in the region of 0.5 to 1 pounds per week, we can try to minimize our fat gain and ensure that the highest percentage possible of new weight that we do add is actually lean muscle. At this stage of the video, I'd encourage you to drop a comment below and let me know what your biggest challenge is with nutrition, and I'd love to help. Once we've got our diet plan in place, the next important thing we need to do, which can literally make or break your progress, is create a suitable training program for your goals. Over the years, I've made so many mistakes at the gym, did things that with hindsight were completely pointless and didn't help build muscle, and delayed my progress by months, if not years. In the next section of this video, I'll make sure you avoid all of those mistakes and have everything in place to start building muscle and improving your physique. Step 1 is deciding what your training split will be. I would recommend that you choose between one of 2 different splits, either a full body training program, training every other day, or an upper-lower program where you would train 4 times per week. Neither of these splits are inherently better than the other, and you can see great results if you do either of them effectively, so this bit can come down more to personal preference. The big thing that we get from both of these splits is an adequate amount of volume per body part across the course of the week to ensure that we've got enough stimulus to see adaptations. The problem with splits where you work chest on Mondays, shoulders Tuesdays, legs Thursdays, and back on Fridays is that you are only working each muscle once per week, and unless you're a high level advanced bodybuilder, that will simply not be enough frequency to elicit the changes that we actually want. With both of these splits we've discussed today, we could work an individual muscle 2 to 3 times per week, and there's a lot of research to suggest that for hypertrophy, this is far more optimal than just once per week. In terms of the structure of the workouts and exercise order, for both splits, you want to ensure that you're rotating what muscle group that you work at the beginning of the workout when you've got the most amount of energy. And this will ensure that you don't end up with lagging body parts. To make things simple for you, I've added a link in the description that gives you free access to my body recomposition workout guide, including program templates and recommendation for exercises. From experience, I know that the equipment available from one gym to the next can vary massively. So in this guide, I've put together a list of my favorite exercises for hypertrophy, as well as video demos, so you can pick movements based on specifically what kit you have available, and you can download that completely for free using the link in the description. Regardless of what split you do, for every set we will be doing 2 working sets. Now, at this stage of the video, I want to be clear that not all sets are created equal, and you might be thinking, well, what do you mean? A set of 10 reps is a set of 10 reps, right? Well, when your goal is hypertrophy, I can assure you that that could not be further from the truth. Let me explain. In your program, excluding your warm-up sets, you'll have 2 main sets. Set 1, where you'll aim for between 6 to 10 reps, and set 2, where you'll aim for between 12 to 15 reps. But if we want to build muscle, any old reps are not going to cut it. We need what's called effective reps. At the start of your set, when the weight still feels relatively easy, your body will recruit just enough muscle fibers to be able to move the weight. But as you get closer and closer to failure, you'll start to recruit more high threshold motor units. The thing is, it's only those reps closest to true failure, where you are giving maximal effort and the weight is moving slowly, that generates a high level of what's called mechanical tension, recruiting the muscle units that are most responsible for muscle growth. Let's imagine that you do a set of 12 reps with the final rep taking you to absolute failure. It won't be till around rep 8, where the set starts to get really quite hard, that we start generating the level of tension that will lead to muscle growth. So in this example, we get 5 effective reps. Reps 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. The problem is, if you do a set of 12 reps but end up leaving a load of reps in the tank because you don't like how it feels when you train hard, and we all know that pain, then despite the fact that you're doing 12 reps, the amount of effective reps that you'll be doing will be significantly lower over the course of your workout and have a large impact on how much muscle you build. The other thing that will be a significant part of your lean bulk is following the principles of progressive overload. If you are not getting stronger, then you're not going to be adding size, and this is where rep ranges are a really effective tool to use. I mentioned earlier about the rep range of 6 to 10, so the way this would work is, using an example of a dumbbell chest press, you would pick a weight where you could do at least 6 reps. Then, over the course of the next few weeks, once you hit 10 reps or more, that's then your cue to increase the weight and start that cycle again, but on the next weight up. By doing that, you're constantly showing to your body that there's an actual requirement for an adaptation to occur. Whereas if you're constantly lifting similar weights and never moving up, your body isn't going to see any need for you to have to change. What we have to remember is, like we said earlier about our bodies purely being survival machines, adding loads of extra muscle mass is not something that our bodies will necessarily want to do, and it's something that requires extra calories to sustain, which from your body's point of view isn't necessarily a good thing. So we have to show that there's a real requirement for change, otherwise things will simply stay the same. And this is really where everything starts to tie in together with your nutrition and your workouts. You can eat in a surplus, but if you're training like a flower, then you're not going to see changes. And on the flip side, you can train like a machine, but if you're not giving your body the fuel that it needs for the adaptations to take place, then again, you're not going to see the results that you want. Building muscle and improving your physique is not just about doing one thing well, but instead it comes down to managing various different aspects of your lifestyle, your calorie consumption, your food choices, your training, your workout intensity, and your consistency all together. If you just take one of these things out of the equation, it's really easy to see how all of a sudden the puzzle doesn't quite fit together anymore. I hope you found this video useful, and if you'd like my help with creating the most optimal plan to actually start seeing changes with your physique week in, week out, head to the link in the description, fill out my application for one-to-one coaching, and I'd love to have a chat. See you in the next video.